He's been very, very good. Very good.
Bob Carr. Now, he's a former New South Wales Premier, former Australian Foreign Minister. He was last week interviewed on Chinese TV about a speech on trade by Chinese dictator Xi Jinping. Xi Jinping, I'm fair enough in calling a dictator. He's now a dictator for life, essentially, after the new change in the constitution. Have a listen, Michael, to this world-beating grovel from Bob Carr.
I was impressed by his leadership for the world. America has given up leadership. It's got a very erratic president. But China was saying, we stand for open economies, for more trade. But in the meantime, the Chinese people see their leader as more responsible than the American president. They see China cast in the role as global leader and America looking irresponsible.
So dictator Xi Jinping is leading the world, whereas the elected president of the United States, well, he's just a shocker. He's just really shocking.
No, shocking. Bob Carr is hard to take seriously on any foreign policy issue. When he was Premier, there was no Premier who had his knees buckled under more desks or restaurants or dinners at the homes of Jewish leaders. He was the most pro-Israel state leader in New South Wales history. He was also incredibly pro-American. He was a member of that, Stephen Loosley will remember, he was a member of that Society of New South Wales Labor right politicians who praised the American presidencies from the past. Now we see exactly the opposite. Well, I think he's being paid by the Chinese government, isn't he? He's on the payroll of China.
Not him personally, but...
Not him personally, the university, the centre.
Chinese donors.
Right, the centre.
One of them was linked to the Chinese regime, but he's bowed out, but I'm sure there's some sort of...
His credibility is shot. He's got no consistency, and from a former Premier, you expect some kind of consistency of position. He's now pro-Chinese, he's now anti-Israel, he's anti-American. Who knows what he's on about next?
Can you explain to me why a former Labor Premier and Labor Foreign Minister goes to China on national TV and says the dictator is leading the world, whereas that American, he's rubbish?
Well, Bob's conversion to all things China has been quite a thing to watch over the last 4 or 5 years, if not a little bit longer. I've had many conversations about China with Bob, and I find his positions utterly reprehensible. He is incapable of mentioning their human rights. He's incapable of mentioning Tibet. He's incapable of mentioning the surveillance that every single Chinese citizen faces. He's incapable of mentioning their aggressive expansion in the South China Sea. And he's incapable of acknowledging they've just become a dictatorship. I mean, you may have criticisms, and I've got plenty of Donald Trump, but you want to know the great part? He can be voted out in 4 years' time.
This is dangerous, isn't it? Because let's remember, he's gone on to China to praise a man that a lot of Chinese dissidents and people hoping for democracy knows is a dictator, doesn't allow human rights, is mounting a big crackdown on dissent, is persecuting the Chinese Catholic Church, has thrown a lot of people into jail, and has just made himself effectively dictator for life, and is being praised as a leader of the world. What does this tell you?
Absolutely. I mean, Bob has got to stop simply repeating Chinese propaganda and actually start asking some hard questions. When you're sitting there in that position, he has a duty to raise some of these issues, even if it's just for them to give the stock standard answers. But he is incapable at the moment, it seems, of recognising the deficiencies of the Chinese regime, and that they are mounting up, unfortunately.
And I've never heard Bob Carr criticise the lack of a free press in China. I mean, if the basic hallmark of a democracy is a free press, where is the free press in China? It doesn't exist. Has Bob Carr ever criticised them for that? Not once. Well, not once.
He might now and then, I don't know, in a sotto voce here. Here he had an opportunity on Chinese TV to say something. And all he did was peddle anti-American rhetoric and praise a guy that's just been made dictator.
But quite frankly, does anyone in Australia take him seriously anymore?
No, but the point is that in China they do.
The Jewish community are horrified by him.
And Australians are horrified. Australian University.
Australians are horrified by him.
This guy's centre is teaching Our kids.
The people in the modern Labor Party don't take him seriously anymore. I mean,
No,
you've just heard what
but
Stephen
the point
Conroy
is
said.
ensconced in a university teaching our new generation. This freaks me out.
Yeah, but people at those universities go and they know he's just sprouting a pro-Chinese line now because of the
You think?
publicity. Well, because
Well,
the
I think
publicity surrounding him.
There's a growing reaction around the world about the Chinese infiltration of universities and the way that they've done it. And what we're seeing is pushback now by academics who are saying, no, we refuse to compromise academic principles for funding when it's tied in the way that it is tied. And that's something that everyone should get behind.
I think you're absolutely right. And Clive Hamilton, the former Greens candidate, was absolutely right in his book. I urge people to go and read it about this soft power. Michael Kroger and Steve Conroy, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Andrew.
Did I just praise a book by a Greens candidate? Well, yes, I did.